What it is, what it do, you tune into the Jose Morales podcast. I'm your host, Jose Morales, and we're back in the ring this time with a good friend of mine, my man, Auston Oliver. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
In this episode, we're gonna get familiar with Auston's story and how he turned his life from homeless to a successful business owner. And on top of that, he only had a 6th grade education. Very inspiring story. So now with this episode, let's get started. Ready? All right, Auston. So thank you for coming on the show, my man.
Yeah, of course.
How do you feel about being on?
Good. I mean, hopefully I don't, suck. Like I don't want to be I don't want to be the boring one. You know what I mean?
You're not the boring one. Trust me, I've talked to you, and I bring people on here that I see that have a lot of good things and knowledge to bring to people. And when I talk to you here in the gym, you always bring good insight, and you have good theories and philosophies and work ethic and core values about yourself and your business that I love your vision, you know? And like when you talk to me about your workers, remember when we talked and you said, hey, if you're still here and da-da-da-da-da, yeah, things like that. I love that about you. And I'm like, you know what? I need to have Auston on. And then I also talked to David, and David was like, yo, you need to get Auston on. David was like, you need to get him, he's tight. So, all right, you know what? Let's make it happen. So just to get people more familiar with Auston, quick little history on Auston. Auston, you've been coming to the gym now?
Off and on a few years.
Yeah, off and on. He's not been consistent.
I've been more consistent now.
Lately, you've been coming, what, once a week, twice a week? How many times
Once or twice a week, depending on David's schedule.
Yeah, and he's been training with David one-on-one at least once or twice a week. That's been for the last, what, month, 2 months?
A little bit more than that. Yeah, I'm on my 2nd or 3rd round of buying 4 or 8 passes, whatever it is.
Yeah, and then at the beginning, prior to that, you were just coming every now and random, right?
Yeah, and
completely random.
Yeah, and that's, part of it was just knowing me. I knew I had to invest a little bit more to get the consistency.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about the boxing in a little bit. I want to get people more familiar with who you are. So tell us your name, tell us where you're born, give us a little background, tell me what you guys do now.
All right, well, Auston Oliver. I was born in Martinez, Bay Area. Uh-huh. I'm adopted. I met my adopted parents when I was a teenager. And before that, I was really from 12 to 17, really homeless.
Yeah. You were adopted at what age were you adopted? Were you like little?
I met them when I was like 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when were you adopted?
So that's an interesting story because it actually, with the official adoption, I was actually an adult.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which the wild part is, because I'd been with them for, they took me in when I was a teenager. And the wild part is doing an adoption and being with them is at one point on the day that we did it, the judge looked at my mom and says, he's gonna have more claim, more rights than your birth kids.
What?
If anything happens to you. And without a beat, she goes, I know. And I was just like, I looked at my dad, I was like, do you hear what he just said and what she just said? And he goes, we know this. And I was like, okay, well, let's go.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it's like, they had taken care of me so well for when I was a teenager, and there was just a lot of things with my birth dad that if he did some things that put me in some bad positions, and he kept stealing my identity. I had crazy amounts of debt at one point, like $35,000 that I had to clear up and take care of.
This is when you were a teenager?
Kid. Yeah, I had credit cards starting when I was 13 in my name that I had to just clear up. And I only found out because I was going to buy a car and I went to see a friend of mine, and it was the Subaru dealership at the Rosa Auto Mall, and they couldn't find me. Like they typed in my social, they typed in my driver's license, they typed in everything, and they couldn't find my identity at all. And they're just like, you don't exist. I was like, I'm right here, dude. And so I ended up finding out that my dad had done so much that the organization that actually oversees, your TransUnion, your Experian, all of those, they actually froze my identity to stop it.
Yeah.
So they were like, there was so much fraudulent activity, and we've been, they keep track of everything you do.
Yeah.
They're like, we knew you weren't doing it. So we froze you. So no one could look me up or anything like that. And so that was part of the process of my now parents being like, hey, I talked to a friend who does like financial advisements and a bunch of like financial things. And I was just like, I want to move forward in my life, but my birth father keeps messing this up for me.
Damn.
He's like, well, you need to change your name and you need to change your social. And so I told my now parents, who, again, they'd been looking over me since I was a teenager. And my dad had like this file and he's just like, we've been kind of waiting to talk to you. And I was like, for what? And he goes, if you're going to change your name, we want it to be ours.
Yeah.
My kids call you their brother. You've always been like a son to me. We want to make it official. So we did.
How did you guys connect? Like, how did you even come across them? Like, tell us that story.
So here's what's interesting is growing up, my father was actually a licensed pastor, which he used it to really just take advantage of people, and he was just not a good person. He was
biological then?
My biological, yeah. And so we actually, we were essentially like on the run, living in and out of places from, the last grade I completed was 6th grade. Mm-hmm. So after that point, until I met my current parents or my new parents, we've just been literally, I've lived from here to Princeton, New Jersey, Texas, New Mexico, all the way in between. And he was just a scam artist. He ripped people off all the time. We were living in hotels, cars, houses, apartments that we weren't paying for, and we would just stay there until we got kicked out.
What?
Yeah. Like I remember, I was actually thinking, mentally prepping for this. I was thinking there was this one time we were in Mesa, Arizona, and my dad always put me in these positions where, like, I had the responsibility of him and my older brother. Mm-hmm. So like I dropped out of school and I was telemarketing. I was selling, like the grocery ads, the carts and the tapes and all. I was doing that over the phone at like 14, 15. So I remember there was this time we were in this apartment in Mesa and we were months without paying. And I don't know, I feel like they were kind of connected to, like a family. Because they did some things that I'm like, I don't think that's totally like not sketchy. But I remember they came to collect it was like 2 a.m. And my dad was hiding in his room, screaming, crying. My brother also was and he was hiding in a different room. And I found myself literally just standing in the middle of the living room as these guys were literally just pounding on the door, trying to break in. And I saw this sofa. And I just threw the sofa. The door opened and there was like a wall here. And I just threw the sofa there to block them getting in all the way. And the door opened like this. And I was thinking about, all I remember is just seeing these eyes of just like pissed off anger, trying to get in and collect on the debt owed. And so we were constantly in positions like that in homeless shelters or whatever, because my dad just chose to be lazy. It's probably why I have such a hard work ethic now. Because when he and my birth mom were together, we lived very well. At one point, we lived in a huge house that's worth millions now in the hills of Lafayette in the Bay Area. My mom was a nurse. My dad owned multiple businesses. He was owned like sales businesses. Yeah. And so
they were successful.
Yeah.
Everything was going great.
Yeah.
What was a turning point? How do you go from that to a scam artist?
I think what it was my mom left. And she left 4 days before my 5th birthday. So that was Valentine's Day, 94. And at one point we were told and led to believe that she was dead. And so I thought she was. And then I was 8.
Who told you this? Your dad?
No, her family.
Oh, okay.
Because she went back to Manila. So at one point I was 8. And
so she just left you guys?
Yeah, just boom, gone. I remember there was a lot of like arguments. There was a lot of fights. She was having affairs, which didn't lead to anything good, obviously. And so there was just a bunch of chaos leading up to this like point.
Yeah.
And then when I was 8, I remember we got a phone call, and one of my mom's family members asked my dad, "Hey, have you seen your son?" My dad goes, "Which one?" Andre or Austin? Andre's my older brother. And no, the baby. And I goes, Austin? No, the baby. And then in that conversation, we learned not only was my mom alive, she left pregnant. And I had a younger brother that we didn't even know about.
Damn.
And so part of it was my dad. So in my dad's story, he was actually born in the middle of his parents' divorce. He has a step sister, or like a half sister, and his stepfather was super abusive. And somehow like Florida, or his dad lived in Florida, his birth dad lived in Florida, and he's in California.
So very similar to
what he ended up going through, because not only did he have a son he didn't know about in another country, but found out that I also had a half sister. So it just like
identical
broke him down, and he never recovered. Like he just never chose to fight for his two kids that he did have in front of him and to actually be a good person for us. He just kind of just gave up. Mm-hmm. And so I literally, from the time I was 8, I had been dealing with landlords, with PG&E trying to shut us off, phones, like all of that. My dad put me in those positions. Because I remember we were living in this house. Actually, we went from.
You still talk?
Nope. No, when I was 17 and decided to go out on my own, and I ended up moving onto the church property where I actually work now. Different. We're in Roseville, but then it was in Orangeville, and I moved out. I had a duffel bag. That's all I had. And then I started. My first job was actually selling car wax at gas stations. Like, hey, do you want to see this? And then you spray it on, you wax on, wax off, all that crap. Yeah. And so I was literally taking all of my money, everything I earned, living off the bare minimum and sending him the rest. Just because I still wanted to be a good son.
Yeah.
And I didn't know in the background of everything that he had told my now dad, I don't want him anymore. So I had no idea that even happened in the background. So they knew each other? Yeah. So we met because, sorry.
You're good.
We met because we started going to this church in Orangeville, where my new dad, my dad, he is my dad, and my mom were the youth pastors at the time. And so we got close that way. Because it had gotten to a point where I was tired of moving place to place. I was tired of cops showing up to kick us out of places, and I wanted something different. I wanted a change in my life. So I remember there was this night we were living in this house in Carmichael, and the cops showed up to kick us out again. I was just like, God, there's got to be something different. Like either something has to change or just take me now. You know what I mean? Like I'm done with this. And so God has always talked to me in dreams. Like that's, I believe like part of my like strength and my motivation is rooted in God and who God is in my life. And I had multiple dreams, and all of my dreams that night, I was actually connected with this church and with my dad, my new dad.
Yeah. Which
didn't make sense because I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be anywhere else. And there was just different things that I was doing in my dreams that there was already people in position doing. Like there was a venue that my dad had started, a music venue that in my dream I was actually running it. But there was someone who was already in that position, so it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I was like, but God talks to me in dreams, and I was just like, okay, God, if this is how it's supposed to be, if this is really you, then you've got to get Matt, who's my dad, get him to offer me a place to stay in the dorms. Because at the time, the church was in Orangeville, and there was a guy's dorm and a girl's dorm on property. And no joke, literally, days later, I was walking with him at the church on a Sunday morning. He looked at me, it was right around this time period because we were getting a Thanksgiving basket. And he goes, your basket's over there because I want to make sure you guys have everything you need for Thanksgiving. But just know, if you want to make a change in your life and you want to go forward, I will make sure there's a spot for you up there. And then the rest is history. And I got that job selling car wax. I was selling giving everything to my dad.
So as a teenager, you were living in that church.
Yeah.
What's the name of the church?
Family Church.
Okay.
Yeah. We're still Family Church in Roseville, but at the time it was like Family Christian Center in Orangeville.
So what high school did you go to?
I didn't. Well, okay. I went for 3 months in Southlake, Texas.
That's it?
Yeah.
No other school?
I didn't make it past 6th grade, man. And I was in and out. I was in kindergarten, 1st grade, skipped 2nd to 3rd. And then once they bumped me up because I was just doing good in school. And then I dropped out 4th, 5th. I showed up like the last month of 5th so I could get into 6th, and then that's it.
What?
Yeah.
So no high school diploma?
I've gone back and I've gotten my GED.
GED, okay.
Yeah,
no.
And I've gone to Sierra. I'm literally 1 semester away from completing my AA in business.
What?
Yeah.
Man, that's huge. So what made you, first of all, congrats on that, man. That's huge. You go from 6th grade, education and becoming the person you are and blessed. And you could tell that your faith, is what kept you together. So what made you go back, get your GED, and get what sparked that interest in you?
Because for me, it's like there's this guy I listen to. His name is Eric Thomas, or E.T. the hip hop preacher, and he has a similar story. And one of the things in his podcast are that he does a lot of YouTube videos, and he said he doesn't want his kids to ever be like, "Hey, Dad, you were fine," and not do it.
Yeah.
Because it's always something you can fall back on. Like no one can take your education away. And for me, it's like I read a lot. So when I went to do my GED, I actually didn't even really study. I just went in and took the tests. When I talked to some of the teachers, they're like, "Yeah, it's because your comprehension level is so high because you read so much."
Yeah.
So for me, it's like one day I hope I have kids, and I don't want them to be like, "Hey, Dad, you didn't do it."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would I apply on myself? You didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's like, no, because if everything falls apart, I can always go back and get a job.
Yeah. So how old were you when you got your GED and all that?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s? And what were you doing work-wise in the 20s?
Working for the church.
Church?
Yeah, I was, so I ended up taking over that music venue. When I came onto the scene, there was one location in Sacramento. And then it moved on to Fresno. And then by the time I was done, I think I had like 7 venues that I, under the umbrella. And then I was booking at probably 3 or 4 more spots and running them.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And from there, how did the restaurant come about? Because restaurants, because I know your family's in the restaurant business.
Yeah, so I ended up actually, the venues took off. They were doing good, and then the music scene, the local music scene, kind of like took a dip. So at the height of it, I had some pretty big names come through. Like I had Zendaya. She did her CD release at my venue in Roseville.
Yeah. She's actually family members with somebody here at the gym.
Okay.
That's her niece.
Oh, nice.
That's the Spider-Man's girl.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
So when she, was her album Replay, I actually hosted that. And I've had like Kalani came through, Sage the Gemini, a few others like come through. And then I ended up not wanting to do that anymore. I became a youth pastor. And then that ran its course, and I just took on like the business aspects of the church. Well, my dad, he became the senior pastor of the church because his dad, stepped down.
The same church
retired.
you guys been at the whole time?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then he ended up opening up a wine lounge called House of Oliver.
Yeah.
Which, that was great. I love it. And that kind of sparked some things because he and I had always talked about, opening up a bar or something. And then he did it, which is cool. And then he and his brother opened up another restaurant. And then they ended up splitting ways, and he kept House of Oliver. And then I've always wanted to do something because there's no like retirement plans in church. You're not getting paid a ton. You're like, what I mean? There's just not that option. And for me, it's just I want to do more with my life, and I really love beer. So
cigars too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cigars, beer, and whiskey, man, all day long.
Yeah, you brought We thought it was a beer, but it's liquid death. I guess it's water.
Yeah.
Sparkling water, but this looks
I drink a lot of it. They should
This looks
sponsor
like an
me
OE. This
in
looks
my
like an
life.
OE bottle.
Yeah.
And so that's where Painkillers came about?
Yeah, so I have a friend of mine who his family actually founded BJ's.
Yeah.
And so he and his mom had a burger joint on Douglas. And he had reached out to me. He was like, hey, I'm looking at doing a project. I talked to my fiance, and she's like, if you're going to partner with anyone, it should be Auston. And so we went down that road. We explored it a bit. And he ended up being like, no, you know what, this isn't for me. He ended up going into mortgages, and he's killing it right now.
Yeah.
Like, super proud of him. But I still wanted to do something. And so I ended up.
So you were going to do it with him, and then when you guys were in the midst of it, he ended up getting cold feet or changing mind, change your heart, and decided to do something else.
Yeah.
So then you were alone.
Yeah. So there was, not quite. I am now, but not quite. I brought in someone I thought was a friend.
Oh, I think you told me about that.
Yeah. And so when that died down, I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, I still want to do something. Do you want to? And so he said, yeah, let's talk. So we actually met at a bar in Citrus Heights called the Glass Turtle.
Yeah.
And we talked it out. We were looking and we were like, man, this is what we want to do. Just a neighborhood bar. And so we ended up going farther. We partnered up. We found this property. We opened up, lasted for a week. And then he did some things that caused us to shut down. And I was obviously frustrated. And then that ended up going south. He ended up emptying the bank account multiple times in anger and frustration because I think it's because I'm younger and he's in his 50s and, you know, I'm new blood, he's old blood. And
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, this isn't acceptable. This isn't okay. And he ended up acting out of rage and anger and got us shut down and, you know, drained the bank account 3 times. And
Wow.
yeah. And now we're in a lawsuit, so I can't really talk too much about it, but it's been wild. Where, you know, Painkillers is now a year. We celebrated a year this past September that I reopened by myself. So I had lost.
Congratulations on
everything.
your first year.
Thank you. So I lost everything, took a little bit left, reopened it. And
Tell us
it's
about
been the best thing.
Tell us about Painkillers. What is it? What does it stand for? What's the vision of Painkillers? Like, let the people know what Painkillers is. So first, before anything, tell us where the name came from.
So that was actually that was me and my ex-business partner that we threw a bunch of names together. Basically, we just kept shouting out names, and that one just kind of stuck. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we moved forward with that. I created all the logos. I built all the furniture actually at the restaurant, benches, tables, redid the inside because we took over a good location, and there was actually a pub that was there before us that had great bones. Everything about it, they were there for almost a decade, and so it was cool because it's like I've never talked to the guy. I've reached out before, you know, opening. Because I didn't want to step on any toes because, you know, opening during COVID, when a business closed because of COVID, it's like, are you coming back? Are you not? But I never heard back. And with my family being in the industry already, it was just like, that could be touchy.
Yeah.
You know, so I reached out multiple times. I didn't hear back, but definitely thankful for everything he built because his, you know, it's that ceiling floor concept. Like, thank you. Like, because there was already clientele who was expectant of a beer pub being there. Yeah. And he built that for us. Yeah. So definitely thankful for him. For me, it's just, I want to be a good neighborhood bar, man. Mm-hmm.
Is it bar only or food
beer
also?
And wine. Beer and wine and food.
Beer, wine, and food.
So we have
cigars?
Yeah.
You got
cigars?
Dude,
I smoke cigars on the patio all the time. I don't sell them. I just have them available.
Oh, okay.
If anyone wants one, I literally have a shelf full. And as long as people on the patio are okay, go for it. And so my vision with it is I just want to be a good neighborhood, a safe spot, a good neighborhood pub. My adopted mom, she's from England. And I remember one time she and my dad went over there to visit her family. And they were talking about pubs and the difference between bars and pubs. And over there, pubs are a family thing. Like everyone goes to it. Yeah. And so I like threw that in the back of my mind. And I just held on to it for a long time. And then when this came about, I was like, that's what I want. And so we do things with like Rockland Thunder. it's funny because we have this pub and we've had this team of junior hires come in to watch film and all their practices and all of that stuff. And people are like, it's weird to go to a bar for our kid to watch their, pee-wee football stuff, whatever.
That is different.
Yeah. But for me, it's just like, I look at down the road when those kids grow up, I'm probably going to be the first spot they want to get their first beer in 7, 10 years, whatever. And ultimately it's like, it's cool because I've had families literally tell me they changed their plans on whether or not they moved because they wanted to be close to the pub. I've had also people tell me like, I don't have to tell my wife any lies or anything like that when I go. All I have to say is I'm going to Auston's spot. And they're like, okay. Like, cool. We know nothing's going on. We know it's a family safe spot. Like, it's a good place.
Yeah.
And females feel safe there. Dudes feel safe there. We're pretty, like, it's a really, like, a good
environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's everything.
Yeah. And that's really what I want to do. That's what I wanted it to become. It's definitely became that. And it's cool because I'm helping my dad up at his spot in Lincoln right now. I'm managing it part-time. And what's great is I hear people all the time say, hey, Mr. Painkillers. Or, hey, that's the Painkillers guy when I'm up there. And it's people that I know. And so I've got, that bright red truck blacked out. Mm-hmm. And there's been times when I've been driving on the road and I've got stickers with my logo and stuff. And people be like, hey, I see you. Because, they recognize my truck.
Yeah.
So it's just.
That's the community you built.
Yeah. Like we established a really, really good, safe community.
And that's crazy because it's only been a year.
Yeah. It feels longer, but it also doesn't at all. You know?
That's super cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, how do you create this environment? What's your tip for that? Like, how did you do that? What did you do? How did you do it with your staff, tell us about that.
Well, I think everything starts with the top down.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And, for me, it's just like, it starts with me. So when I see people, like I'm typically friendly, even though I'm actually a bit of an introvert. I am most comfortable in my corner on my laptop, just hyper focused on work.
Yeah.
That's where I'm most comfortable. But with wanting to create this and just beer already has a good community sense. So having that opportunity to create that environment in a good community, Rockland's killer.
Yeah.
Like they're super family friendly, super community oriented. So having beer and put that together, it was easy. Yeah. But also it's like, no matter what, like we're always a welcoming environment, period. And I take time and I try to meet a lot of my customers. When I first reopened for the first 6 months, 7 months, even now, I have my business cards with my cell phone number at the bar in multiple spots. So every single time we had a new customer, I told my staff, give them my card. I tell them anything they need, my cell phone's on it.
Yeah, that right there is huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, because it's like...
You need to pour your everything into this business, especially as a leader. And then when you do it, your teammates, everybody else starts following. Like if you pour your all, suddenly your manager's doing it, your assistant manager, now the servers are doing it because they're gonna follow your lead. Yeah. Not what you say, but they're gonna follow what you lead.
100%. Yep. And I posted on my story last night because I had one of my my cooks. He told me last night, he's like, we had some issues with staff. There was a staff member who was supposed to come back and he didn't, and just no one could get a hold of him. And so cool, I'm here until the end. And he told me, he's like, dude, I've worked in multiple spots and I've never had a manager, let alone the owner. He said, you always stay. When anything's going wrong, you're there and you always stay till the end.
Yep.
And I'm like, for me, that's leadership. That's leadership. There's a difference between being a boss and a leader. And for me, it's like, I choose leadership every day.
Yep. I think that's huge, man. That's part of what I think some businesses that struggle is in like maintaining a staff, a team.
Yeah.
And the retention where they're constantly losing people or losing good workers is because of that. Is because the leader is not a leader, he's a boss. He's, we'll do this, hey, do that, that. and while they're chilling. You know what I'm saying? It's like you gotta put in the work along the side with them.
Yeah, and for me, it's like
work harder.
No one's gonna outwork me.
Yep.
Like, you know, I'm full time at the church, owning and running Painkillers, managing over at Brew House, and I book music. And for me, it's like I don't sleep much at all, but you know, that's besides the point. It's just I'm not gonna be the smartest guy in the room. I'm not gonna be a lot of different things, like the most educated or anything like that. But it's like my goal is to always be the hardest working in the room. Like I can do that. I can control that better than anything. Yeah. And for me, it's just like it's cool because the harder I work, and the more I go for it, I notice my team goes with me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, man. I love that. So let me rewind a little bit, and I get a lot of people that are listening that are probably struggling with a lot of things you struggled with when you were young, when you couldn't see the end to this ongoing cycle of getting kicked out and and maybe feeling depressed or maybe feeling lonely or sad. What kept you motivated, or how did you get out that funk? How do you not let that kill your spirits? What did you do?
God, dude. Like, that's it. Everything comes back to that.
So what do you mean by God? Were you praying? Were you reading the Bible?
To be honest, I can't even say that I was. I mean, there were moments where I was like, God, this fucking sucks. You know what I mean? So I know I'm on staff at a church, but I cuss a lot.
Okay, good, because I cuss a lot too. Yeah. Hey, we got the pastor over here cussing.
My dad always tells me, your brother's in the car and so is your mom, watch your mouth. But for me, it's just like, there were moments when I would be at my worst. Like, part of why I don't sleep is because of, you know, having that people trying to break into this place or in the homeless shelter. There was a guy who was sitting in a wheelchair. He had demons, he called friends, and I called them critters. And he would literally just sit there staring at me, just like talking about killing me at night. And I'm like, this sucks. But I remember there were moments that literally God would connect with me in dreams. And I'd have these moments where it's just like, shit, you're there. Like, God's here with me right now.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just like, I was actually talking to someone the other day. It's like,
so
I'm not like, I've never been like suicidal. I've never had those thoughts. That's just not who I am. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not afraid of dying. Like, I'm kind of like, that'll be cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's something I haven't done, obviously. I'm still here. But it's like, you know, my belief is, you know, to be absent from here, you're with God. And so there's that element of, you know, if I keep on track here and I keep doing the good things, the right things, and being closer to God, then eventually you end up there. And for me, it's just there's always had to, whatever position I've been in, whether it was homeless shelter or on the streets or even now, they're still better. Yeah. And so I never want to give up before I actually get to the better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking right now, and if for some reason this reminded me of it, and I'm going to ask you your opinion on this. When you were struggling or when you were down or whatever was going on, where you're at your worst, in your head and your heart, did you feel or see yourself doing things that you see yourself now?
No.
No?
No.
So not even a glimpse of it?
Nope.
So no? Nothing?
Mm-mm.
So what was in your head? It was just pure faith?
There's got to be more. There has to be more.
Okay.
And so what sucks for me is I think people give up.
Too soon?
Too soon.
Yeah.
You know, I was actually talking to a couple people, because right now, like, in our current culture, you know, when things get tough, take a mental health day, take a mental break. And it's just like, but name one skill, name one thing in life that you get better at by taking time off. And I think for me, I don't take time off. Like, I'll go do stuff with the family and stuff like that. But it's like, every time I've gotten better when I came to the gym, you know, boxing or whatever. But every time I took time off, I was like, crap, I got to restart.
It's harder. It's harder to get back in routine.
And so it's like, whether it's video games, sports, or anything, if you want to cross over and you want to get to the better, you don't take time off. And right now we have a whole people group literally telling people every time it gets hard, take a mental health day. Take time off. Instead of, no, you push through until you level up. And I think for me, I've always pushed through. And I think that's where I'm at, is because I've realized that the more I push through, the harder I work, the harder I go. eventually I get to the next spot.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like that gets, it's addictive. And so that's why I work hard is, you know, I've gone from homelessness and living on the streets and living in cars that weren't ours to, I love my truck. I bought a house on my own. No one funded my house.
Yeah.
No one funded my business. I did. I love my family. And there have been times when they were like, when I was buying my house, my adopted family was kind of upset at me that I would not let them help me. But I was like, no. Like I've told my family more than once, I love you.
Me.
This is me.
Yeah.
This is me. This is my time. So for me, it's just I know there's always got to be better. Because if not, well, there is just if not.
You always had that.
There is. Like,
for sure.
You know, I think I was talking to a couple the other day, they came into the pub and both of them were homeless at one point in their life. And then they found each other and it's cool. But it's like, it's interesting because my work ethic, and I was talking to them about it, like, because I was homeless and because there's an element where you're fearless. Because you're like, I've already been at the bottom. It doesn't get worse than that. But also, at the same time of being fearless, you also have this healthy fear of, if I don't work my ass off, I could get back there.
Yep.
And I could lose it. So it's this like, I don't know if it's healthy from a psychiatrist standpoint, but for me, it's a healthy position of it. That's what keeps me going.
That keeps you motivated.
Yeah, I've been at the crap. Like
nothing worse than that.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than where I've been. And I know if I lose everything, I can rebuild.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lose everything. So I work harder and harder and harder to keep leveling up.
Yeah, for sure. That's huge. That's huge right there. I think that's something people that are struggling with anything, whatever it is that you're struggling with, we need to look at that more.
Yeah, like
hey,
stop.
It doesn't get worse than this.
Yeah, and stop breaking from life. Like, keep pushing. Like everyone wants to do better in life. I have no doubt about that. Whether or not they know their goal. That was me. I just wanted better. And the only thing I know that actually gets you in a better position is to work harder. Like every single day, work harder than you did the last day. Like every day, it's a challenge for me to work harder and push my limits, which, you know, that's why I'm back here at the gym, because it's like there's a different limit, there's a different element. So I'm pushing myself mentally, spiritually, physically, and constantly pushing myself every single day.
So you can grow.
So I can grow. Like every night right now, I go out and I post on my story because I go out. Sometimes I'll get home at midnight. Sometimes it's 1 a.m. But I take my dog out and we do 3 to 4 miles every single night. So I was out there until 1:30 this morning.
Yeah.
And that's just, I'm pushing myself in every aspect of my life because I want better.
What are your plans for the future?
Future? I want to open up more painkillers. I want to have more neighborhood pubs. Probably, 1, 2 more max, just because there's only so much I can mentally, dude, there's only 24 hours. That's my biggest annoyance, and my one argument I will have with God is that he only gave us 24 hours. Because that's, to me, I'm like, I need more time to accomplish everything I have. So I want to do a couple more, and then I'm going to focus on real estate. I bought a house that has 2 houses on the property. One's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and then a 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit in the back. And when I bought it, it had no floors in the main house. Now it does, and the plumbing and all that got squared away, and I live in it. But then I want to fix up the back and rent that out. And so my goal is I want to buy multiple properties that have multiple houses on it, like triplex, fourplex, duplex, or properties like this where I can put a fence in between and rent out both.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like that's going to be my retirement plan. Business owners don't have one. Church pastors don't have one. So it's like, how am I going to take responsibility for my future? Yeah. And that's what I'm doing. Is I want to open up more neighborhood pubs, and I want to own real estate. So at one point, I'm single now. At one point, I can just be like, I built something for whoever my future chick is. I built something.
Oh, you hear that, ladies?
No, I'm not in a rush. I'm still building right now. But it's like, I'll be at that stage, because it's like, I've told my dad, I make this joke all the time. So my little brother, he's 17, he plays rugby. I'm like, man, I want to get to a point in my life where I can have my kids play the sports that don't matter. The rich people sports.
Yeah.
Not that my parents are rich, they work hard. But it's like rugby, lacrosse, polo. Like you gotta have a horse for polo. Like that's when you reach like ultimate peak richness. You bought a damn horse.
You gotta have a
so
horse.
your kid can play a sport. I'm like, I want to work to that point.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm just still in that building stage of, you know, I've got one property with 2 houses on it. I've got 1 bar. I'm managing a second one.
But you're working on building your
empire.
Yep. I like that.
Yeah. And it's you know, that's my goal is I want to build an empire to sustain because it's like, I saw this thing on, it was Instagram, I think, or TikTok, I don't know, one of them. I scroll when I'm not sleeping. And it said, I don't want to leave my kids with debt. I want to leave them businesses and real estate.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, that's what I want.
Yeah.
Like assets.
Not liabilities.
Yeah, 100%.
Tell us about the gym, man. So why did you come to boxing? How did that come about? Why? Tell us about that. I'm going to share my story when you first came in, but I want to hear how this came about for you.
So I actually came here because I just gotten out of a crap relationship, super abuse. I told you that. She, you know, thought I was a punching bag versus a person.
And to be honest, a lot of people that start, I think that's like, if I had to give a percentage, I would say 60% of the people that start are coming out of something like that.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a relationship, but out of a bad situation of life. Maybe losing their job, a career change, or something crazy that they're at a down.
Yeah.
And they're looking to work on themselves.
Yeah.
So that's a common one.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, it was just like, it was something different. That's something I'd never done. Obviously, I love watching boxing. But I was just like at this place where it's like I kind of lost all my confidence. And someone was talking about, you know, a good way to build it back is, you know, to go boxing or Muay Thai.
Yeah, Muay Thai, yeah.
Whatever. Something. And I'm like, you know, I'm part Asian. I don't want to do Asian-y things. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even use chopsticks. Like my half British siblings are way better at being Asian than I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, plus I don't want to like walk around barefoot and like where other people's feet sweat is, like, ugh. And so I found you guys. I think there was like a social media ad or something. I came across you guys. Yeah. And I was just like, well, shit, I'm gonna go check it out. And then I sent you guys a message or I called in and then you called me.
Yeah.
I was like, well, shit, all right, well, I'll go check it out. And then signed up.
Yeah, I remember you coming in. And then when you came in, we went in the back, we talked for a little bit. We started talking about hosting shows and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a good conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you started coming to the gym. And so how has your experience been? Now that you've been here a few years, you built some relationship. You get along great with David.
Yeah, which, you know, you know, just from where I was coming from, like the whole idea, though, like seemed intimidating.
Super.
Yeah, because like, wait, I'm gonna go and pretend I know how to throw a punch against these guys who do it for a living. No. You know what I mean? Like I'm having that in my mind, like this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. like I'm gonna feel so stupid. And then I came and it was anything but stupid. Like, dude, I think I worked with you first.
Yeah. Super
encouraging, which is why I came back. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, hey, I'm gonna have you work with Dave. And I was just like, man, the owner just passed me off. Like, what the hell? But I was like, you know, like you're always smiling, and at the time, like David does now. But when I first met him, I was like, you don't look as friendly. Like this is bad. Like in my mind, I'm like this is bad. This is bad. This is shit.
Like this fucking guy.
Yeah. Like man, I went from the happy dude to
the
not happy. Yeah.
The guy with the coffee.
Yeah. And then he was just super like encouraging. And I was like, all right, cool. So, and then I kept coming back, and I came back when, you know, as often as I could. And then it was actually at that time I took on going back to college and getting my GED, which is why I, you know, took time off. It's because I'm like, I can only do so much. I only have so much time. But looking back, I'm like, man, I could have made it happen. I was just being lazy. You know what I mean? It's just like, I wasn't in that place where I could mentally keep challenging myself. So it was like, I was here sporadically. To be honest, I was at school sporadically, even though I still did it. but got that done. And now I'm back and doing it more. And, the one-on-ones, I was honest with, David actually called me back. I was like, dude, let's do a one-on-one session. And then I did that. And then I've just been doing it since. And it's just like, at first I was like, yeah, I don't want to feel stupid, jump back into a class. Even though I know I won't. Like the trainers always take care of everyone here. And they will work. If you're behind where the class is, your team always takes care. Like I've never felt stupid after a class.
Yeah.
Just going into it because I'm like, I know I'm behind where I should be.
I know what you mean.
When I'm taking time off.
And,
know what I mean?
and to be honest, I think that's a great step that David did as far as putting you in one-on-ones, because as a trainer, that's kind of your job to see where you can put the person where they're gonna do the best at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they're gonna benefit the most from. That's part of being a leader, a coach. And he saw that you would do the best at one-on-ones. He had you try it out. And it's been working great.
Oh, dude, it's great. Like I highly suggest one-on-ones here.
Yeah.
For everyone watching.
Yeah, and it's been going great for you, and it's helped you build up and feel
more
better
confidence
about yourself.
about being here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've actually done that a few times. It just depends on who you're working with. You got to know the person you're working with.
Yeah.
It's not a one thing fits everybody. It's not one thing fits all. You got to know who you're working with, what kind of person, and where they're gonna do great. And David's been doing a great job with you.
Oh, 100%.
Shout out to David for that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I look forward to because we do it every Wednesday and then we throw in some Mondays, and it's just like I look forward to it.
That's cool, man.
Like it's a highlight of my week now.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, thank you for being a part of it, man.
Yeah. No, thank
I'm
you.
excited for the event we're gonna put together.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that. And then I wanted to start asking you some random questions.
Go for it.
You ready?
Yeah.
So tell me something about you that not many people know about you.
Crap. I don't know, man. Oh, I got like this scar on my head from when No, actually, that's not a good story at all.
No. You can't start it and then say no.
Well, I told you okay, so I had this scar on my head. Actually, I randomly got into like a fight when I was in like preschool, and so this guy's laughing. The camera is laughing.
He got hit with a crayon.
And then it's been one of those things where it's like, and then I've gotten into other fights, and that's like the spot people hit. So I've actually had to repeat learning how to speak so I could be understood twice in my life.
What?
Because yeah.
So what'd you get hit with?
I don't even remember the first time.
So you have a scar on your head?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it. So what? You don't know what you got hit with? Like you got hit with?
No, I was. I have no idea. Both times actually. Gone. But yeah, I had to learn how to talk multiple times in my life. And I actually, when I was first born, they actually told my parents I would never speak. Like that was the belief.
What?
Yeah, so they actually were looking at, they weren't sure if they were going to go through with it because they were told by the doctors that I was going to be born blind, deaf, deformed, and brain damaged because of the pregnancy. My mom was like 4'11", dude. And so they actually almost didn't go through with it.
What?
Yeah, but my dad had said that at one point, like he had felt like God had said no.
Yeah.
And so thankful, obviously, because I can see, I can talk, I can do all of that. But it was definitely, there was a time in my life when I was not, no one could understand what I was saying.
Yeah.
And so there's actually I get frustrated sometimes when people ask me to repeat something I said. And it's nothing against them. That's an internal issue.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I lived so much of my life having to slow down and repeat what I had to say just because no one could understand me.
That is something, I didn't know that about you. So you listen to that.
Yeah, so that's, sometimes I lack a little confidence when I talk because I'm like, am I going to sound stupid right now? You know what I mean?
So on your free time, Friday, Saturday night or something, you're hanging out, what do you do?
I don't have free time.
Nothing?
No, actually.
So there's never an Auston time. You're chilling by yourself, you want to do something.
Well, I mean, here's the cool thing is because oversee everything is one, it's cool because at any point I can always be like, okay, I'm taking time to go do something. But also at the same time, also have responsibility. And so right now my stand-in is every Monday. I have some guys, they come out to Painkillers, and it started a couple years ago, and we just smoke cigars and we just chill and hang out. But my me time is literally like when I get to shut my brain off, not think about everything going on, is when I'm here, or I work out with my buddy Paul every single day.
We should have brought smoked cigars on the podcast. Slacking. We just thought about that.
Cut. We're gonna restart this.
Yeah, man, I did that one time. I did it with Bobby. We smoked a cigar during the podcast.
Oh hell yeah,
we should have done that right now.
Yeah, we should have.
It should have been legit.
Yeah.
Next time we got to do another one now.
Yeah.
So, all right, and now that you told me that, let me throw a cigar question in there since we're on the topic. What kind of cigars do you like?
So there is a brand I love. I think they're in like South Dakota or something like that. It's called Deadwood Tobacco. And
I think you gave me one of those.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. They've got they call them like the 5 bitches. And they've got Ugly Betty, Sweet Jane, all of these other these females that they're named after.
Ugly Betty.
Yeah, dude.
That's the
I
one
love them. I love them. They're just it's made by Drew Estates, which I love Drew Estates and a lot of what they do.
Yeah.
And they use pipe tobacco. So that's my go-to every single time. Or it's called Laroutan, and it's basically natural spelled backward. And that's another Drew Estate.
Oh.
Those are my favorites.
When I'm gonna come through and smoke one at Painkillers
hell
with
yeah.
you. So now that we give all that, so this podcast is gonna air on a Monday. How do you start your week? Is there any Monday ritual you like to do? Anything that you like to just get your energy up, your vibes up? What do you do?
So Mondays, I take it slow. Like, because on Mondays, the church is closed. Oliver's in Lincoln is closed. And the only business that I am interacting with that day is Painkillers. Because Painkillers is open 7 days. And so I'll take my morning slow on a Monday. And just because, I just did church on Sunday. And at the church, I do the finances, but I also oversee the whole media and sound department. So it's a lot. And then I leave from there, I check in on Painkillers, and then I work at Brew House, and then I go back and close Painkillers, and that's my Sunday. So Mondays, I take it slow. I've got actually a little row machine at my house. I've got some weights. I'll just do a slow day, just a little bit of just something to get my day going, and just YouTube music all day long. Like just all morning until I'll go hang out and work out with my buddy.
That's cool.
At his house.
Nice little
But
chill
Mondays
day.
are my chill mornings, and I don't really do anything until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
A good little recharge day.
Yeah.
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 Ain't nothing wrong with that. So everyone listening to your episode here and listening to your whole story, getting familiar with you, is there anything you want to add to this episode, or anything you did not mention, or you want to say, or you want to?
Just if you're going through a tough time, if you're at this point where you're like, I don't know what to do, or just everything's shit.
Yeah.
Just don't give up. Like, it does get better. If you put in the time, if you work hard, it gets better. Like, one thing I used to tell my youth group and tell people who work for me and anyone who I actually share my story with is, if I can get this far with a 6th grade education from homelessness, anyone can.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not special. I just work hard. And so anyone can do better.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, if you actually were able to grow up with parents or a roof over your head consistently or an education, like, you are already steps ahead.
Yep.
So you can do it. Like, just don't give up. Just work hard. Apply yourself. Like, fucking do it.
Yep. I agree. That's a good recap and a good tip,
Yeah.
Don't give up. Keep it going. Now, if people want to connect with you, how can people connect with you? How can people stay in touch with you?
All my social media handles are the Auston Oliver, AUSTON Oliver, or you can come visit me at Painkillers. We're in Rockland at the address is 2168 Sunset, and we're at the cross street of Sunset and Park, and we're right there in Rockland.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
and sharing
dude,
your story,
thank you, man.
I know that's gonna touch home with a lot of people, because you have a inspiring story though. So congratulations on all your accomplishments.
Yeah.
Keep killing it, man, and keep being you, man. You have a good energy and good vibe to you. So
Thank you.
Again, thank you. Thank everyone for listening. I hope you guys have a great Monday. We'll be back next Monday with another episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We out. Deuces.
Thank you.